Welcome everyone to our presentation on Don't Let Summer Break You, Setting Healthy Boundaries. My name is Nadia Paloma. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm with Avance Behavioral Health, and I graduated from the University of Central Florida. I use cognitive behavioral health therapy to help patients and also other evidence-based practice models to help treat mental health. And I speak Spanish and English. In my time to be able to spend time with family and friends, I enjoy also outdoors. And so the presentation will talk about how to develop healthy boundaries, what types of boundaries there are, and how to manage the way that healthy boundaries could be set in different aspects of life, with family, with relationships, with friends, and also in parenting and children. And we'll go over different examples that we would be able to talk with different people when it comes to having those conversations, and we'll provide ways of having those conversations. And we'll also go through different transitions in life that those conversations for setting healthy boundaries are important. So first, we'll examine what are boundaries to be able to identify what are boundaries. And so boundaries are put in place to define where one thing ends and another thing begins. Boundaries in a relationship are similar, that they help each person define where their beliefs and values are and where the other person's begin. So boundaries are oftentimes invisible. They are not easy to be recognized, and it's knowing where something ends and something begins is not as easy to be found. Boundaries help define what a person is comfortable with and how they would like to be treated by others. And so according to Dr. Hutchinson, it describes how boundaries are important for letting people know that they have rights, different rights as an individual, as a person, the right to feel safe, the right to have your privacy, and the right to have your boundaries being respected, the right to be heard and listened to feel validated, to feel appreciated and valued, the right to respect that when the answer is no, it means no. The right to have your needs met, the right to be treated with respect. And there are realistic versus unrealistic expectations in boundaries. Personal boundaries are the limits and rules that we set for ourselves within relationships. A person with healthy boundaries can say no to others when they want to, but they are also comfortable opening themselves up to intimacy and close relationships. So there are boundaries that are rigid, and in that case, people tend to be distancing themselves from others physically and emotionally. They kind of check out of the friendship, the relationship. They stop connecting or communicating, and that's not healthy. And then alternatively, they could have what is called porous boundaries, which they are too involved in the friendship or in the relationship. And they are also what is called enmeshment. It's too much, there is no space in between one person or the other one, and that is not healthy. Oops, sorry. when it comes to boundaries, there could be also a mixture of boundaries. Some people might have boundaries that are too rigid at work. They might not talk to many people, but then they have porous boundaries in family members that they tell the family anything and everything that they need to do. So it doesn't mean that because you have a certain way of boundaries in one place that the boundaries are going to be the same. It could change, it could fluctuate. Boundaries are based on a person's beliefs, values, the way that they were raised, their background, their culture could also influence values, their gender, race, ethnicity, their society has their own boundaries, and that could also impact the way that a person is able to identify boundaries clearly as they are going through different aspects in their lives. And there are different types of boundaries. One is called physical boundaries. Physical boundaries are to closeness, personal space, proximity, usually arm's length. If someone is too close around this area, then yeah, that's if you're not comfortable with them being as close physically, then that's a physical boundary that they're stepping over. Intellectual boundaries refers to others, ideas, opinions, and awareness of appropriate discussion, of having a healthy conversation, knowing that there are difference of opinions, and it's okay to agree to disagree in certain instances and respecting the other person's opinion. Emotional boundaries are respecting the other person's feelings, learning when to share and when not to share personal information, and recognizing that, yeah, if it's too much of sharing emotional and personal information, then it could be impacting that person. And then at the emotional level, the boundary becomes blurry. Sexual boundaries, emotional, intellectual, and physical aspects of sexuality, including respecting limitations to proximity, physical, and also any comments, any negative comments, and also sexual orientation that could be affected. Material boundaries involve physical possessions, property or money, anything that has to do with your money, your assets, the things that you have. And if it's not clearly defined, then the boundary becomes bended and is not healthy. Spiritual boundaries are respecting a person's beliefs, their religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs. And if it's not respected, then it's not healthy either. Time boundaries, how a person uses their time in personal relationships, family, work, and how to have a healthy balance. So having time, it's a balance in time, it's important. And then during childhood, it's important to help children have boundaries. When children go through trauma or any negative events, it can affect their boundary development. As they get older, they might feel not safe. They might feel lack of control if they're experiencing any physical or emotional distress, then or if their caregivers are also experiencing anything like that, then they start feeling overwhelmed. Children who undergo trauma, they feel lost, confusion, and it doesn't have to be necessarily trauma, because when it comes to trauma, when I ask a patient, have you ever been traumatized, or did you go to something traumatic growing up? They might say, no, I was good, but my dad was an alcoholic, or my mom, she suffered from anxiety and depression. Okay, well, that's not necessarily traumatic against that they did something to them, but if they were not emotionally there, if they were emotionally checked out. They might have been there, but they might not have had the emotional capacity to deal with them. And so that could also cause the child to feel less than, to feel a less sense of safety, because as they get older, they start feeling just the world might not be as safe to trust in themselves, to trust in others, and the boundaries could feel very difficult to keep in relationships, with their work, with people, with peers. It might not be easy because they did not have as much of the support that they needed for them to build that strength and the knowledge to know what is healthy versus what is unhealthy. So it's important to help them, children, in regulation of emotions, to help them build trust in themselves and to help them build trust in others, and teaching them what is right, what is wrong, so that they know how to identify those healthy boundaries. Providing love, acceptance, and tolerance helps nurture a sense of belonging, teaches them to better handle feelings, resolve conflict, and negotiate whenever they're able to express what is it that they're needing in the relationship, or what is it that's important to them. And family, there are family boundaries and parenting boundaries. So family boundaries involve respecting personal space, ensuring emotional availability, setting clear expectations, maintaining healthy communication, acknowledging everyone's concerns, fostering positive behavior, keeping a nourishing environment, teaching accountability and responsibility. Boundaries are oftentimes based on in family and traditions. So if a family member has the tradition, it goes from generation to generation. So if a grandparent believes that drinking too much soda is gonna be like, unhealthy, which it is, but yeah, if it's more of like very strict, and you cannot ever have no sugary drinks, not even like what's it called, sparkling water. And so yeah, nowadays, yeah, it's like, okay, it's respectful, but knowing and teaching the grandparents that like it's okay now, kids could have something and they could do something, and it doesn't have to be so strict. But yeah, having that conversation and having room for expression of ideas between family members, possibly setting family meetings at least once a month to have that discussion between parents and children, so that they feel comfortable with what they're wanting to have in the relationship. So summer break and children and families, and what to do when it comes to summer time off. From the summer, children require structure, maybe through behavioral charts, for chores, for reading, for having fun, having a balance between staying at home and knowing the expectations, knowing what their boundaries are, what is expected of them at home, if they need to have the room vacuum by the end of the week, or something like picking up their clothes and putting them in the basket, so that way they have it. And so they need that specific structure and guidance from the parents. And sometimes the parent will have to also go ahead and like, teaching them and sitting them with them, versus like, remember to clean your room. They might forget, but then it's like, okay, let's try to work things out, and remember that your room, how can I help you? How can I start helping you to organize your room, or what you need to do? Teaching them about bullying that could happen also, like, in school or over the summer, anything that has to do with any feelings of discomfort that they might feel. throughout the school year. And so teaching them about the risks of social media, if they spend a lot of time in social media, then having those boundaries and letting them know what the expectations are and what the repercussions are, monitoring time and when they use social media. Video games falls under that category too. TV shows, I mean, yeah, it's not to completely restrict them because they're in the summer, but having a balance between educational and then having that time for fun. Putting parental control, checking their history online. They might be, as they get older, they might be very, very wanting their privacy, which is understandable, but also it's like to observe what is it that they need, and to talk to them, having conversations so that way they don't, some parents, they rather take their phones away at night in the evening just to prevent them from being on social media at night. And yeah, if it's really difficult for the child, then even Wi-Fi might have to be turned off. Sometimes teenagers, they are very, well, many times they're very smart, and so they use Netflix, and they go somehow. I've had them when patients that they go through like behind Netflix in the TV, smart TV. Sometimes they get they how somehow they could chat with people in the smart TV. So I don't know, maybe people, not many children go the roundabout, but yeah, so having a close monitor on that, especially for teenagers, and anything that has to do at night and with video games too is not healthy. So setting healthy boundaries with them, it's helpful. And so for the summer, for trips, it's also time to enjoy and to have fun together as family. So planning for the trip, talking to the kids about the trips and what they need to do. And then when they are outside, reminding them to stay hydrated. And if they're in the pool, many times they're in the pool by themselves. And so, yeah, just being mindful of that, yeah, if they know how to swim, okay, just keeping an eye of them. But if they don't know how to swim yet, then yeah, making sure that they're being monitored very closely. And when they go to visit family members, reminding them what are the house rules, respecting the house rules that they're going to go into, and reminding them that it's not going to be they're not going to be there the whole year. They might be there only for the summer, and helping them, talking to them if it's co-parenting, being able to talk to the other caretaker, to be able to talk to the child whenever they're able to be available, and whether it's through texting or calling them, having a specific time to talk, and then asking them about their feelings, what they're feeling. It's okay to talk about that. Time together is important. Whenever being at home with other family members or being together, many times time together for dinner. When I ask parents, it's almost, it exists, but it's very like, yeah, it exists, but they have to have their phone by their side, which is okay, but maybe putting the phone somewhere, dedicating a zone for putting the phone away, even if it's just for like 10 minutes, so that way they're able to have an eye-to-eye conversation. Generational boundaries exist. And so, yeah, if the example of grandma doesn't want the grandchild to listen to music with their headphones on while they're at dinner, then yeah, having that conversation with both of them, with the child and with the caretaker beforehand, and maybe coming to a compromise of, okay, grandma, the grandchild is going to listen to music after dinner, maybe 10 minutes to sit without music, and then another 10 minutes with music. But yeah, it just depends on the grandparents. But that's why setting healthy boundaries when it comes to anything interaction, especially generational interactions with different generations. When they go to a friend's house, they also need to know their curfew, what is expected of them, what are the repercussions, having those clear set, and they might to be, if they have a sleepover, then what are the rules, who are the people that they're with, everything, having those specific conversations, so that way they know that they need to communicate with you or where they are. And I think they have also the location, so that is, you know where they are and that they're safe, that they're okay. And then, teaching them about what to do in case of an emergency, how to respond, having those conversations about what is healthy in another house, in another space, especially if they stay over at night, teaching them about safety surrounding if they're offered alcohol, drugs, vaping, smoking, what is appropriate, what is inappropriate, proximity boundaries, how close was someone able to get to be by their side. And so all of that is important to always try to have those conversations. Many times parents are not comfortable with those conversations out of fear that their teenagers are gonna go smoke if you tell them not to, but it's having that open communication and letting them express what are their beliefs about it, what do they think about it, and then teaching them that it's not okay to do and how to respond to that. Having quiet time if possible, when they are in the summer away from technology. I know that they always need their technology, which is great, but even if it means having calm music in the background or soft music in the background, but teaching them maybe possibly to stop for 3 minutes and outside to listen to the rain, to listen to the birds, to listen to something away from the screen, to have something to do, to write their feelings out, to draw their feelings, to be able to do something if they have fidgety toys or something that they could play with away from a screen. So having and possibly designating quiet time throughout the summer for slowing down, to teach them to be okay with their feelings. So having healthy boundaries around technology and having time to accept that they have feelings and to know that it's okay to stop and rest for a little bit, even if it's like time to take a nap. That in itself is quiet time. And so many times children might feel uncomfortable talking to parents, especially tweens and teenagers. So having them time to explain to them, if they're going back to school, it's like the first time that you had to start high school and how nerve-wracking it was and how scary, but then teaching them that it's okay to have those feelings, to have those fears is normal, and possibly how you got to conquer them, to go and to face your fears and to know that you got to talk to friends, or you got to have your favorite teacher or have a nice class. And so having those conversations to let children know that it's okay whenever they get scared, but also paying attention and being mindful if there might be, once they start school, there might be bullying involved, there might be hidden abuse, not from you, but from others. And so 75% of abuse takes place from a person that the child knows, especially if it's sexual abuse. The babysitter, the daycare, and the family member, it could happen. So having those open conversations is crucial. And if they don't feel comfortable talking to you about it, then letting them know that they could talk to a teacher, they could talk to a guidance counselor, so that way they feel comfortable talking and expressing their feelings. But always trying to not be judgmental or criticizing them. If they don't want to talk, giving them the space, respecting their space, respecting also their boundaries when possible. And so we have Avance Care provides services for children and teenagers and adolescents and adults for counseling and also for psychiatry. And the YMCA, they also offer great summer camp programs where children are able to be together and socialize with others and learn many different things. And they also have the time after school program as we approach some of the students going back to school next week. So the way that therapy works, it's the main one that it's used is called cognitive behavioral therapy, and it helps children and express their emotions, how to reduce negative patterns, improving communication, how to have positive responses and enhancing self-esteem and working through their fears. Young adults, as they're back from the summer, they also will need guidance in remembering how to organize their stuff at home, how to keep track of their finances once they go back to college again, work schedules, anything relating to that. They would also need support and guidance, and possibly having those conversations as they get home from school or as they go back to school after the summer, then staying in contact with them and letting them know that it's okay to have feelings, emotions, and to express them. So setting healthy boundaries with family, some examples of how to respond to different situations in front of family members, saying, I appreciate your concern, but this is my decision. I respect your opinion, but I don't share it. I will no longer be in the middle of family conflict. Please stop asking this or that. I don't appreciate it. I understand your frustration, but I am choosing this. Let's try to work together. That crosses a line. If you're going to continue this, I'm going to leave. And so, yeah, many times the example of a grandparent that begins to be very overwhelmed, like, why is the college student not getting a job? What are they doing with their lives? So it's like, okay, thank you for wanting to be helpful to the grandchild. However, they're studying, they're going to college, they're preparing, so they need their time. And so it takes time to have those boundaries. How to maintain healthy friendships, having that healthy connection with friendships. So it's how to know that if a person begins to say something that might be out of context, or you're just getting to meet them and they just want to blur out everything, all their feelings, all their emotions. They want to spend time with you. They want to do everything together. They want you to do everything with them. They want to do everything for them. It starts becoming too needy, too much of a codependency, and it's not healthy. So taking time to get to know the other person, taking time to get to know each other, as boundaries protect the integrity of the friendship. So being able to know and knowing that, since it's very invisible, it's not like very clear cut of, oh yeah, you're getting too close to me. But sometimes, yeah, having that gut feeling of some people might feel it in their stomach, some people might feel it in their heart, like, oh, I think this person it's too much, too close. And the same thing applies for relationships with partners, especially people who tend to be very codependent. They want to be so fast that in a month, in a week, in a day of knowing you, they're like, yes, I think you are the love of my life, I want to marry you. No, it takes time. So it's knowing that, yeah, like if it's too much too fast, that means that they have overstepped their boundary. So expressing in a relationship, it requires to express concerns clearly and appropriately, speaking as honestly as possible from the beginning. If you start feeling like, oh, I think you call me 5 times a day, can we take it down a notch to maybe 2 times, then see where it goes? But yeah, just having that conversation, expressing your feelings in a healthy way, appreciating the other person's expressions of love, making regular times to enjoy leisure time together, share time together with friends, with family, and respect time alone. And that is key for them to respect your time alone too, and for you to respect their time alone. Have daily healthy discussions, if possibly, so that way being able to listen to each other, be attentive of one another, make important decisions together, negotiate as necessary. And then in professional and relationships, it's also important to have healthy boundaries. So knowing what is acceptable and what is not acceptable when you are surrounded by supervisors, coworkers, it's important to know what you're able to handle and what you're not. If you have any concerns, being able to express it or in writing or to your supervisor, so that way they're able to help in any situation. So setting clear expectations for work, so prioritizing your time, their time, communicating with one another, and knowing when it's okay to say no in any relationship. But yeah, it's important to be aware and be mindful. Communicating boundaries using I statements, being specific, being polite and clear, delegate when you can say no. And so, if it's a coworker who starts wanting to do all the work for them, even though that's not, it's not your responsibility, then being able to politely declining and saying, oh, well, yeah, I think I have this type of work too, but yeah, I'm just gonna do my work right now. And then if they get too overwhelmed for you to talk to them, then yeah, going to your supervisor and asking them, hey, this person, they don't want to do their work and they want me to do it for them. I don't think that's right. Can they talk to them? By responding to questions kindly as possible, being able to know that yeah, it's okay to decline when it's even if sometimes supervisors might not have the best form of telling the employees what to do. So it's okay to ask questions and to explain, like, oh, I understand that I need to get this done, but is there a way that I could get help with this so that I could meet the performance that I need? So it's being able to have that open communication and keep setting healthy boundaries with people at work. And knowing that you cannot control what others think, feel, do, and you are solely responsible for what you think, feel, and do in order to be freed from the burden of having to take more than you can handle, and therefore have more mental and emotional stability. So if you start feeling overwhelmed, speaking up and saying, hey, I think I need help, or I need support, or I need guidance. Boundaries help lower unnecessary stress from a day-to-day basis, to help the person be able to complete and do what they need to do at work. So asking self-reflection questions is important. What things, places, situations, or people are bringing me stress and anxiety? So this applies for any type of relationship. Am I attempting to control someone's emotional thoughts or behavior? Do I feel mistreated or taken advantage of? Does the value I feel from others change based on how well I fulfill the requests or obligations? Do I need to adjust my responsibilities to align with others' view of me? So it's having those questions asked and knowing that it's okay to ask those questions to yourself and then talking to others about it. Feeling pressure. Pressure is something that could make us feel guilty, feel anxious. And so, under pressure, trying if possible to take 15 minutes, even if you are put on the spot of like, hey, why didn't you do this? I told you last week to help me organize this and you haven't done it yet. Okay, then if possibly saying, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get to it. But giving yourself that time to think about it and thinking what your responses are gonna be. Warning signs of unhealthy communication, refusing to acknowledge opinions, ideas, demanding, shaming, blaming, being dismissive to other people's responses, shifting the context of your relationship, making a request inappropriate to the relationship without acknowledging that the request is unusual or inappropriate. So anytime, again, that gut feeling, if someone, whether it's at work or a family member, they ask you to do something and you feel that it's not really, you don't feel comfortable listening to that and not dismissing it. What to say, more words of responses, how to respond. I'm not comfortable with this. Please don't do that. Not at this time. But letting the other person know that right now I don't feel comfortable responding to this. And usually, if it's in the middle of a disagreement, it's better to step away, to walk away, and letting them know right now I'm not able to have this conversation with you. Can we talk about it? Can we discuss it later? I statements, the reason why I statements are helpful, they help to express one's own feelings and needs without sounding accusatory or blaming towards the other person. They allow the speaker to take responsibility for their own ideas and feelings rather than placing blame on the other person, keeping the conversation flowing, deflating barriers to communication. And so an example of I statements would be, I feel sad when we don't get to spend time together, and then making a request. So I feel this way when this happens, and then making a request. I feel sad when we don't spend time together. I would like to please, if we could come to an agreement to spend time together one time per week on the weekend. I would appreciate it that much, so that we are able to stay in healthy communication. So that's an example of an I statement. So there are periods of transition that become also impacted by the way that boundaries happen. So when it comes to grief and end of a relationship, it really affects the person. Many times after the end of a relationship, a person might be wanting to jump right away into another relationship because they are afraid of feeling alone, of being lonely. And so it's okay to say, to have your space, whether it's at the end of anything that has to do with a relationship or ending, or if after losing someone, but possibly having a balance between having at least one or two persons, one of two people nearby to just help you, but not to be so not with the purpose of establishing another relationship, because you're not ready for it. So you need to give yourself time, prioritizing yourself and obtaining the necessary support and taking care of yourself, it's important, because as you make any transition, a person is very vulnerable to being surrounded by people who don't set healthy boundaries. And so setting healthy boundaries with yourself, also by eating healthy, sleeping on time, exercising, walking. So taking care of yourself is also important when it comes to transitions. So closing thoughts, remembering that in boundary setting, the goal is to present your perspective with clear communication. You're not changing another person's behavior. You're not changing how they think or how they feel. You're just changing your own behavior. Actions speak louder than words. Therefore, how to shift my behavior in order to obtain a different result is important. There are dynamics that will change when you decide to set boundaries, and it might take time, and you might have different feelings about it, and they might not like it at all. But it's okay to let time pass by, and eventually it will come back to more stability. It's kind of if you had you have a snowball and you shake it and you shake everything, and then that's not good. So then eventually it's gonna be it's gonna come to a more subtle, and things are gonna be more normal after. But once you shake something, then it's gonna cause something. But if you do it in a healthy way, then it is gonna be helpful for you, for them, for the relationship. Nobody likes change. And so that's why it's very difficult to set boundaries, and especially with family, or especially when it comes to that enmeshment that they want you to believe this or else. But it's okay. Feeling guilty when setting boundaries is normal. Guilt may come from pressure, fear, anxiety, sadness, worry about being abandoned. People pleaser, if generally you tend to be a people pleaser, then it's very difficult to set boundaries, but it could become codependency. So being able to be mindful of that, listening to your body, again, reflecting on what is important to you, any situation that makes you feel uncomfortable, then it's like a call from your being that says, this is not good, I don't feel comfortable with this, and it's important to listen to that. Boundary setting is not selfish. So people might think, oh, well, you're selfish because you did not want to talk to me anymore. But yeah, sometimes ignoring might be required to set the boundary. So if you have repeatedly told a person, a family member, please do not call me, or a friend, please do not call me at work, do not text me at work unless it's like an emergency, and they keep doing it, they forget, then sometimes you might have to ignore it, at least until the end of the day, and say, hey, remember I said unless it was an emergency, I'm not going to respond to you because I am busy at work. So being able to have and addressing that instead of just responding right away or every time. So it's teaching them that it's okay to not respond every single time. So words like, I just don't want to fight, or using negative comments like, how dare you, or you always, or you never, those words, they're not easy to respond to, but knowing that, like, taking that time is important, instead of responding back to you, but you didn't do that. Okay, well, let me slow down. Let me think about it. Maybe even writing a rough draft saying, okay, I feel this when you do that, and I would like you to help me with this. So yeah, taking that time out is important, and not letting that you feel threatened, not feel like you're threaten. And if they threaten you, then that means it's not a healthy relationship to begin with. So learning to stop to being an enabler. It's okay to say no. It's okay to advocate for yourself. Boundaries are teaching moments. So yeah, boundaries are moments where people learn to respect you, to respect what you need, to respect your concerns, your opinions, your ideas, and setting them, the sooner the better. It's important because many times we tend to put them off like, oh yeah, she'll change, or yeah, he's gonna change, he'll treat me better, or yeah, they'll respect my opinions later. But if they don't do it 3 times and then you keep accepting them, then it's not healthy. So the example of a school teacher, yeah, if a student talks and talks and talks in the classroom and then they don't put a healthy stop to it, say, please stop talking, then the child's gonna talk and talk the whole year, and then the boundary is gonna be too late to be set by the middle of the year. So having boundaries wherever you are, if possible, wherever you go. So for now, yeah, thank you everyone for listening. And does anyone have any questions or comments? And to please put them in the chat.
Let's give it another moment. I don't see any questions populating at this moment.
Okay. Yes, I believe you could have the slides, or you'll have access to the presentation.
Everyone who has attended this webinar today will receive the presentation and a recording after this meeting concludes.
Thank you.
All right, Nadia, I don't see any other questions come through.
Okay, yeah, thank you everyone. So if you want to learn more about Avance Care Behavioral Health Services, there is a QR code, and you could also go to our website and where to see our services. We also provide groups where we have for students and for adults, and yeah, as adults, being able to obtain help to set healthy boundaries with teenagers or with family members are also important too. So we don't have groups about boundaries, but we have groups how to be able to manage anxiety and to help any form of issue that you might be experiencing with mental health relating to boundaries. So yeah. Thank you everyone for assisting today, and I wish you everyone a very wonderful rest of your week and afternoon.